Good evening, good evening, good evening, you all. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do the usual disclaimers, I gotta make this quick. I gotta hop in a shower after that. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by Neuroclastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center's so-called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened Neuroclastic with a defamation lawsuit if they didn't remove it from the website. Neuroclastic refused, so you know the drill. Please read the article, share on all your social media. It's actually rather pertinent and topical in regards to that whole situation with Neuroclast, with what we're going to be going over here in regards to, again, not just gaslighting, but the same gaslighting. Over and over and over again, while they continue to ignore every single challenge anyone brings up in regards to their comments and just keeps saying them over and over and over again. Yeah. Because, interesting thing about using the appeal to authority when you're trying to shut down criticism. When your opposition is also full of experts, in particular here, service providers such as ARC, other community-based programs like through the Centers of Independent Living, the People First movement and groups. It's individual doctors and clinicians from some of the most recognized and decorated research institutes, not just in the country, but around the world. Your appeal to authority really, it just doesn't work, folks. 11 experts, and you're going to put that up against literally the rest of every single other expert in this field, every single other service provider in this field, community-based program, residential programs, all with psychologists, psychiatrists, caseworkers, social workers, direct care staff. Good God, it's a hell of a list. Your appeal to authority doesn't quite work when the same level experts are either higher than you on said field's totem pole, or it's literally your 11 experts against everybody else who's ever worked in this field. Okay? It really doesn't work when we're talking this particular case because, again, you can't just play that, well, not all one size fits all. Gee, you fucking think, Karen. And nothing else will work for these kids. We insist upon it. When literally everybody else who is a leader in this field have come out adamantly against you, and even the assholes who still hold ABA as top tier care look at you as nothing more than a giant embarrassment and a stain on in regards to those types of programs. Okay? Your appeal to authority does not work here, Karen. When you have someone like Neuroclastic, who is literally interviewing Folks, within the ABA field, which, let's face it, it's got its own multiple bunch of issues, as well as psychological and emotion abuses built in, but 800 ABA folks from all over the globe who are standing against your insanity, your appeal to authority crumbles into nothing. All right? But let's get started where we left off last night. But first, the trigger warnings. All right, trigger warning 1. When we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please make sure to utilize your headphones. Trigger warning 2, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is something that is very much advised. Trigger warning 3. While we're going through this particularly overly long comment from the JRC and their allies, keep in mind that they are simply regurgitating all the same comments that they did last time. And using the same argument about how the FDA does not have the authority in order to be able to go through with the ban, when as a matter of fact, the reason why we're all revisiting this in this year of our Lord 2024 is, as a matter of fact, Congress did go back and amend it so that, yes, the FDA absolutely has the authority to see through the ban. In fact, they didn't even have to open this up for comments. Okay? They're doing it for the sake of transparency. But as a matter of fact, they didn't even have to do that. What can I say, JRC? For once, you are on very thin ice. No, you know what? Don't tread carefully. Go ahead and kamikaze your case straight down into the dark depths of hell, so we can finally close you down and leave behind this dark part of both medical and mental health history. Okay? All right. Each and every one of these parents have spent years searching for effective treatment for their children's dangerous and debilitating SIB and AB, and endured years of watching their children suffer as positive only treatments and numerous trials with various medications. The very same treatments lights the FDA admits only are generally successful. Here the fuck we go again. For patients suffering for SIB and AB, failed to stop their children from hurting themselves and others. Again, not addressing anything that the FDA has brought to their attention. Not going through any of the data that has been put in front of their eyeballs from multiple goddamn sources. It's the same talking points. You can't use, well, nothing can be cookie cutter and then turn around and say, but this is only nominally successful in the same breath. Jesus Christ, JRC. You are, beyond a doubt, with no competition whatsoever, the biggest hypocrites on planet Earth. that I've ever had my displeasure to so much as hear of. You can't say on one end to defend your madness, it can't be cookie cutter, this is the only treatments that work, while still refusing to answer any of the points that the FDA brought up. You're like, but you admit it's only generally successful. That's because, Karen, there is not a single treatment program on planet fucking Earth for any of us goddamn autistic that's going to essentially be 100% successful. Because that's not reality. Okay? You cannot 100% remove all behaviors from us. And it doesn't matter what treatment program that you use. Okay? No program is 100% successful for 100% of the people under that diagnosis. That's why there has been different developments throughout time to create other programs that will be able to address those other concerns. Okay? Jesus Christ. I also noticed that once again, you have not answered the FDA's very sound point of the fact that these people, those parents, before their kid got put into your hellhole, JRC, had a proper, full functional behavioral assessment done before they were stuck with you. And to return to the same argument that I was using last night in regards to that, why have you not answered the FDA in regards to us bringing up the fact that most of these parents didn't even know that a proper full functional behavioral assessment had to be done first in order to better find the type of treatment program that's going to have the highest amount of odds to be successful for your particular kid? Why have you continued to ignore that point as though it's never been voiced? You could stick my 10 to 12-year-old ass in Rivendell, or God forbid, something like the JRC, a whole bunch of the different schools out in this area, on the West Coast, Tobin World, all of it. But if there is not a foundation in place before you send those kids to these places, of course it's not going to be successful. Because you're basing it off of nothing. There is no groundwork laid. There is no foundation. Okay? A treatment program, regardless if it's highly rated as the most successful in the world or not, does not guarantee 100% success. It can't. Because not all of us who share this diagnosis, our disability affects each of us very differently from one another. Point blank. Point blank. Throwing kids into quote unquote top schools without the solid foundation of a full functional behavioral assessment done, without the groundwork of a decent IDEA or IEP in place that is actually built up from the foundation of a full functional behavioral assessment and the information you were able to learn there, of course it's not going to be successful. The reason why that is, kids, as a person who's had this diagnosis, is because these individuals don't understand what your difficulties are. Okay? Point blank. If you are not trying to find out what is causing those triggers, for the triggers to then lead into the behaviors you all are so afraid of, you gotta go to the root of the issue. I don't care if it is the most spectacular residential program on planet Earth. If you send a kid there without any kind of foundation, it's going to fail every single time. Every single time. Let me say it again. Every single time. Okay? Because you don't even know what you're trying to correct here. You are flying blind in the middle of the 2007 ice and snowstorm. And believe me, having lived through that, it's not an experience I recommend. Okay? You have not answered the fact that the JRC, that the FDA is pulled up in front of you as to why none of these kids were given a proper full functional behavioral assessment before the idea of residential schools as an option were even discussed. The steps are the steps and set up in the order that they are for a fucking reason. Okay? So, if you're in a situation where that foundation isn't there, and you've got kids going from school to school to school, well, then, Tiff, what would you suggest? First, I would suggest you get off your goddamn high horse and get your kids that proper assessment done like should have been done in the first goddamn place. So that you know specifically what areas that particular consumer is going to need help in the most. And then once you have that foundation, you have what we call a starting point. And with that information on hand, you are better able to look at the different treatment programs, community-based programs, and residential programs that are offered to see which one of these programs look like are going to help that child's particular difficulties the best way. Okay? That is literally how the rest of the goddamn field works. If you have no foundation, it doesn't matter how many times you submit kids to a school, it's going to fail. Because those schools may not focus in the areas where those kids are needing the support the most. In fact, and this is coming straight from me, angrier and angrier and angrier over time, in spite of actually having done the proper steps, where I had to at least deal with 2 to 3 different programs that I was tried out on, where it literally was addressing issues that I had no way, shape, or form, didn't have those issues, and had zero supports for the issues I needed help with the most. Okay? So, why did those programs fail? Because they weren't meeting my needs or helping me to improve in the areas that I needed to improve in the most. Okay? This isn't rocket science here. You saying, but those parents have taken them to school after school and have exhausted themselves and da. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. If a proper foundation is not set in place with a full functional behavioral assessment, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that these kids can go from school to school and those issues still being there. The answer shouldn't be, well, obviously what needs to happen is we need to send them to the JRC so they can torture them into compliance. No, a sane answer would be, somewhere along the line, we are missing something. And we need to find out what that piece of the puzzle is that we are missing so we can actually come to a particular program that's going to help that particular child the most. More often than not, the glaring missing piece is the fact that a proper full functional behavioral assessment was never done. So no, it doesn't surprise me that they've tried multiple programs and they didn't work. Of course they didn't. Because the foundations were not set down in the first place before you started throwing them from program to program and, saying a Hail Mary. Okay? So, JRC, address the facts that these parents have stated before their kids went into your bad Disney acid trip, Martha Stewart barfed, and this is their result school. Why haven't you answered in regards to the full functional behavioral assessment? Why haven't you addressed that? Why? It's been nearly over 20 goddamn years. Okay? You can't try to play on my heartstrings. Regards, but they're suffering and you don't know. The fuck I don't. I was that kid. As that program became more and more successful, I eventually came to work in the field, my own office resources and everything, folks, at the very same regional office whose system I went through, which is actually kind of really cool. Okay? I'm not disqualifying that some of these behaviors are scary as hell. How could I? There are still places on the top and on the very back of my head that I used to slam the brush into as hard as I could until it drew blood that I can still feel. Wooden doors that have been completely annihilated. Scratches and fractures in walls. Couches that were thrown all the way up into the wall and toppled over. The fuck I don't know what I'm talking about here. Okay? Spare me. 2. Speaking of said job with the state, our region covered 25% of the state of Missouri. 25%. Okay? To sit there and try to say, but you don't understand that this very unique, very small population needs for a program to be a success is utter bullshit, JRC, and you know it. You know it is. Okay? Spare me. I was that kid that had those types of behaviors. I've overseen and acted as an advocate and a resource to other autistics who had these same types of behavioral issues. I know exactly what's going on in that particular circumstance. Okay? And as far as, but the dramatic improvement for a child's quality of life with successful GED treatment, I must say it for the millionth time. That's not an improvement. That is us learning how to mask, to play pretend, to give an Oscar-winning performance every second of every single day of our lives that we have to spend outside our door showing you exactly what you want to see, the fan-fictionalized version of a neurotypical, so that you'll leave us the fuck alone. But one can only hold that mask up no matter how good we are within the mask for so long. It's psychologically, emotionally, and yes, even physically absolutely draining. Soul sucking. And when you're forced to do it for years on end, there comes a point in time when even you can't tell who we are as people separate from the mask. Okay? You're not curing them. You're sure as hell not giving them any improvement in regards to their quality of life when you are causing them second and third degree burns. When you are depriving them in the middle of night for sleep to shock them some more. When you make them throw away food and then provide the type of food that you know damn good and well that no autistic's going to eat, and you know that we are willing to starve ourselves. Okay? Spare me. Alright? Spare me. My advice to the JRC is Start addressing the challenges that have been brought up to your verifiably idiotic comments. Okay? What is the answer in regards to these parents that they could sit there and tell us that a full functional behavioral assessment was never done before these kids started getting shoved program to program? Because no fucking wonder. You're not going to get anywhere within the service system without a foundation being laid first. So please, for once in your lives, stop your gaslighting nonsense and answer that challenge. Okay? In regards to what did stop you from hurting others if yours was so successful? Therapy? Medication? Community-based programs? A program I got involved in starting junior year of high school, where I had already gone through the majority of my course subjects, so I was starting to take college courses half the day and graphic arts for the last 2 years of high school. It was teaching me ways to help me to communicate with my family so that they would know what's going on and how best they might provide support. Yeah. You see, if you actually deal with the triggers and the underlying issues that are causing them, and then work on those, then as a natural progression, those more dangerous behaviors come down to a baseline so that we're able to function. And I really am Exhibit A in regards to that argument. Number 2, no program is going to be 100% successful for 100% of all autistics around the world. Because we may share a diagnosis, but where our trouble areas are may be vastly different from one another. Okay? Even in regards to sensory, almost all of us, to the man or woman, have sensory issues. But what those particular sensory issues look like are not the same from autistic to autistic. First example, working from home, right? I can't have utter silence. I have to have the TV going or the radio on, something that provides some noise in the background, or I start getting a little agitated. Some autistic friends of mine, in the same situation, would need absolute silence. And even the very smallest amount of noise may completely derail them in what they're doing. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and close this out. I'm sorry for making this 30 minutes for each small paragraph, but these are some of the most triggering evil sons of bitches I've ever had the displeasure of ever hearing about before. Regurgitating the same nonsense, answering no one's challenges, and it's wash repeat. Therefore, I get a little ranty. Alright, folks, we don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. Please, folks, don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time this evening. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye, everyone.